Good morning, Ghana. Paul Adom-Otchere, Esther Felix Kwakye Ofosu. Disagreement kakra on oral. Now there's a backstory. As someone started from Domelevo. Now you're part of oral committee, Send me your news file. So and I join news, and a day a summer bahon. Na time o kan san asem na no ana deputy attorney general Dr. Justice Shams Ansko interview GH1 e ko kan asem bi say information that Domelevo can ampebu na garbage. But 10 February make it Facebook post to be and then nyame adawroma me hwehwe post no mahu me de be kan ho analysis na ma Paul say ora ni bebramo kan nsemhunu Felix Kwakye Ofosu say wonim ne e wo kan ye onkofo 8 bia ye do mu be gina mra enem we de ne bro the critical analysis and make sure so be subscribe and subscribe and click the notification me the video bi atuma obehu na watimi ahwebi uwie so a share your comment in the comment section. Feel free and share your comment na ye fancy wa na we are app any Play Store. One a pan rate is the best rate you can get to send money home. All the major betting platforms rate one of the amount now what choosing your bebo now they di ujuma young koso ora ete committee na before as me bodom level for esma akofa semu nyina aba no me kaisa on the 10th of February, me throw Facebook post to be post in the dasono. Na mentie press con na me bisa then na samoku je to ledora committee ko bo sika bi ni 21.9 billion say sika ora betimi a recover ni. Comment na say post ni ni. Some say am wa me kasa me nchire evidence and evidence ni. Eni omu di matem fine. Oh, ba MPP ni yo Bawumia studio ni ade na me na nim ni ba bia me ko. Na nti a me de we start na say Yera Domelevo ko interview join news. And we say ora no report ni bebre hu ni bebre no. Ebu wa na yensemhunu nko garbage.
To say that I remember Supreme Court say pay, but it took some time. I don't know up to now whether it has fully been paid. So winning the case is one thing, but recovering it is a different ball game. So I completely agree with the Deputy Attorney General that yes, as for us, we just collected data and summed it up. We didn't do any investigation. A preliminary investigation even may show that some of the complaints were just noise. There's nothing in it. But we collected the data as it is, so including the garbage. So if he has taken time to look at it and maybe based upon some preliminary investigation and think it's on the high side, I do not disagree with him.
Did you just use the word including garbage?
Yes, because at times people. In fact, nobody came to us that we turn away and say, yes, we will not take your information. So we collected all the information. Remember, we are not investigating. So when you come, we are not going to say that Mr. Mensah substantiate what you are saying. So you just come and say that I know Mr. Maliba is involved in this, that. The amount is this. We see the document you have and we capture it. Some even came in the form of emails. Some even came in the form of emails. What about if the person is just making it up? Being an experienced auditor, I know that you can even submit documents, and later on when we test the documents may not have any substance or they may not be authentic.
Yes, because the oral was a committee or gather evidence. Now, okay, we end before start. I see a catcher. So ranu eyebosire muka enya duma enya de papa ene ade na me try another Facebook post bansa na me try that post no Dr. Justice Shamsai eko GH1 because now some here he test because na Captain Smart to start agenda no come na ye come na bo case ne ya to akene ene ade into I responded to GH1 interview no can send me on oral tie ne ye.
Okay, so first of all, people who question the oral committee's work probably didn't understand what the committee was to do. So the beginning of every criminal procedure is complaint, So at the time, there were so many complaints of scandals, corruption in high offices. But people lost confidence in the state institutions because I think over the years they've tried to report some of them to some of the institutions and nothing happened. So they were really looking for a place to lodge those complaints. If the institutions had the trust of the people would have sent their report, these complaints that they sent to the committee there. So what the president did within that period was to create a platform for people to lodge those complaints. It was never intended to be an evidence gathering committee. It was never intended to be any official, when I say official, I mean in the criminal procedure we have stages. So it wasn't meant to be to play any role in the criminal procedure.
But we did see them gathering evidence, didn't we? We saw the committee members going to verify information, see for themselves in some cases.
I like the fact that you said verifying information. Right. So what they were gathering was information.
Right.
And that is different from evidence.
Okay.
So once you get information, so if you go to the police station right now and you say someone has stolen your car, what you have given to the police is information, and we call it complaint. Now the police would have to go and conduct investigations to gather evidence of the allegation of stealing. So what the committee was doing was to gather information. That is why when the president finally assumed office, one of the first official functions he played was to receive the reports, the oral report, which is a compilation of complaints, and hand them over to the Attorney General. So that is when the official criminal proceedings or process would be deemed to have started. And so that is what happened. Now, let me take my time to explain this. The criminal procedure has several steps, in it. So the first one, like I said, is the complaint that people make. When they made a complaint, then we conduct investigations. Now, after investigation, that's the second stage. After investigation, the investigative agencies or the investigators would have to bring what we call a docket or investigative report to the Attorney General to now examine. Now, the Attorney General or the prosecutor, we examine these, investigative reports and dockets, and then we identify gaps in them, because the investigators are not necessarily prosecutors, they are not necessarily lawyers. So they give you information. We have found this, we have found a knife, we have found a cutlass, we have found mobile phone. So we will now have to piece this information together and make sure that it forms a seamless line or connection of allegations and evidence that can lead to prosecution. So once they bring the investigative reports, we examine it, and it's a lot of back and forth. So they bring it, we say, no, there's a gap here, go and look for this evidence to fill in this gap. They go again, they bring it, we identify another one. So it's a lot of back and forth. So if you had come here, if you stay here longer, after this interview, I'm going to meet with investigative agencies. They will bring their reports, we examine them, and then we'll tell them to go back to fill in the gap. We do that until we get a docket which we can take to court. Then when you get a docket, that is when you now file charges. So that's another stage. You file the charges, and then after the charges, you go through pre-trial procedures. Then you go through trial. Then after trial, judgments before sentencing. So it's a long process. Now, before you even ask, there's a lot of concern, and I'm very much aware about how fast the oral is moving, the effectiveness of the oral. Is the oral dead? Is it still alive? And let me say this, the oral is alive and is very much on track. Understand the people who are raising those concerns. And indeed, for us, we are happy that Ghanaians are not going to sleep on oral. We are happy that they prompt us every morning on social media. Every day, I receive no less than 100 tags on people saying that there's an allegation of this here, there's an oral issue here, what are we doing? So I am very much aware, and I like it, because when I wake up in the morning, I am energized by the call of Ghanaians to pursue what we promised them.
Yes, but what you was saying, oral any evidence, any information. Then it brought me back to my second Facebook post. If estimating 21.9 billion more catch in February, no. Say estimate no and as see a mobile investigation I go do saying. Now take it back to February 10. Once my mechanic. Some more gather information. Why do you sum up gossips, informations, and give it a total to? Because say what to press my Attorney General? What to press my buy no? See me yo mo for committee so Attorney General rep say there no information gathering. Mo kotete na wo kotete nsem a wo koto din di sika ko hwehwa no se senti. Wo na mo create problem no. You just say to be ya na me mama me ya de ni mo me mama wa etene en before no be atwa me video on Bafa stock na e di matem. I'll respond to that later. Muntie me ye. And I've been vindicated. Oko tu sika ni din ye den. Gather your information. Na we koso no ana po ko jira so ko good morning Ghana say minimum aso European PP na eno se masa na Tony January no enzemhunu owura no onyigidie bia wo musa.
Because corruption is operating in a perception, you can hardly run away from it. Government can be very careful about the optics, but you will because it is perception. Elsewhere abroad, they understand that perception is not the same as this. So the authorities manage that perception situation and tell people that we're in a prosecution. He is not guilty until the court has finished, and so you can't pronounce him guilty and all of that. It is in the context of all these things that makes the Attorney General's regular press conferences worrying to some sections of the society, because what the Attorney General's press conferences does is to fuel the perception that somebody had stolen. I'm not saying somebody has stolen or somebody had not stolen, but whether somebody has stolen or not, it should be settled by a court. If we politicize it and we PR it and we make it a matter of communication, we are going to run into that difficulty, not just for everyone, but for the government itself. Because here you come and stand and say somebody has bags, somebody has watches. Tomorrow, an investigative journalist comes and says, the Deputy Minister of John Mahama, I saw him in Selfridges in London. This is the video. Look at the watch he was buying. It's still perception. What do you do with that? So a few civil society people are quite worried that these details, you see, the Attorney General is entitled to speak. And I think he should speak on the government accountability sphere. That's a good program. I mean, this is the first time we're having that. We have these press conferences here and there that are never sustainable. But it appears that Felix's government accountability series is working. So yes, he has to speak. But when he comes to speak and give grand details in this manner, that fuels the perception that something wrong has happened. And in the end, we are not able to secure these prosecutions. It's problematic for the democracy we are building, and nobody's going to win. You might win today, you lose tomorrow, because even the person speaking tomorrow, somebody will say that, were you not the one addressing the press conference? I was following you in New York and I saw what you bought, and you bought it for $24,000. If in 2027 the Attorney General, and these days you are wearing something, they photograph it, they put it on a thing, they tell the price. The Attorney General gets a gift from his friend in school in America who has nothing to do with Ghana and says that I'm happy with what you are doing in Ghana. You make all of us proud. We're in the same postgraduate class and you make all of us proud. I work in Wall Street. I have a lot of money. Here is a wristwatch. And you wear it. And then they say, hey, look at the watch he's wearing. $24,000. You came and said Hanan has done this. Perception. So I'm thinking that it's important that in briefing the press on these things, the Learned Attorney General will stay with the operation of the law, how much room the law allows him to speak before he goes to court. Perhaps he should keep that one. Yes, we have arrested Mr. Hanan, who is on bail. We are taking him to court. We are charging him for 78 million Ghana cedis that he cannot account for. When we get into the court, we'll give the details. The court's the public here and everybody will hear it. But this is his nephew. He gave his wife this. His wife has 61 bags. I don't know whether those details are important for the Learned Attorney General. I mean, other people can speak. Communicators can speak about it. That, yeah, we have. But the Attorney General, the prosecutor, the lead government prosecutor, appointed under Article 88. I'm not so sure whether these things. But what interested me in the press conference for a news reporter was when the Attorney General appeared to be responding to Fifi Kwakye's concerns. Fifi Kwakye, the General Secretary of the party, who is a man known for his integrity, came out and said that he's worried, and he was addressing NDC lawyers. He's worried that some of them in that room were negotiating on behalf of some of the people being prosecuted, and that he's watching.
No, he didn't say that. What did he say? This. He says attempting to.
Okay, fair enough.
Yes.
We're attempting to negotiate.
So whether it happened or not, we don't know.
Yeah, he said they were attempting to negotiate on behalf of some of the people being prosecuted, and that he will name them in subsequent appearances. And the matter ended there. During the president's press conference, I think the president had occasion to calm people down and said that he's in charge, he's the boss, he's not going to negotiate with anyone, and that calmed down. However, the Attorney General found occasion at the press conference to yet respond to Fifi Kwakye, this time naming names The president himself has spoken, so you can put the president aside. But he named the chief of staff, Julius Deborah. And then he named another person I thought he never should have mentioned, the secretary to the president. The work of the secretary to the president is not in the public eye, and is always the case everywhere in the world. Do you know who the Donald Trump secretary is? We don't know them. They are not in the public eye. They do the president's secretarial work. They are very important people, but they're not in the public eye. The Attorney General comes and says, Callistus Mahama has not put pressure on him. Julius Deborah has not put pressure on him. President Mahama has not put pressure on him. President Mahama has spoken himself. He's the boss, so he's spoken. But why do you name Julius Deborah the chief of staff and Callistus Mahama? He doesn't name Felix Kwakye Ofosu, who is also a very important actor in the office of the president, perhaps the most important actor in terms of the public. And he doesn't also name the chairman of the Council of State, for instance, Honorable Adom-Otchere. So I looked at it, I said, I was asking my reporters, have you seen what the Attorney General is saying? He's responding to Felix Kwakye and mentioning 3 names. Felix Kwakye was addressing a group of lawyers. All of these 3 names that the Attorney General mentioned are not lawyers. Is he sending us a signal one way or the other? I'm not sure. So that was what I picked from it. I think that civil society and general public are concerned about the details that the Attorney General gives in what the investigation has found. Maybe he has to have another look at it. He's entitled to report to the press. Everywhere in the world, America, they report to the press. They say that, yes, we are prosecuting this, we are prosecuting that. But these details that he gives, being a political actor, a principal political actor, we should all be careful, because tomorrow you will be wearing a watch, you'll be wearing a shoe, you'll be wearing a belt, you'll be sitting in Emirates first class, and somebody will video you and come and tell us that Emirates first class is $11,000. The Attorney General was there. The Deputy Attorney General was there. The Deputy Attorney General was there with his girlfriend. This is the girlfriend's photograph. It is taxpayers' money. It may not be taxpayers' money. It's entirely possible it's not taxpayers' money. But if the Deputy Attorney General is photographed with his girlfriend in Emirates first class, and you come and tell us that Hanan has bags, what do we do with that? It's important that our politicians limit the way in which we fuel this perception of corruption. I continuously discuss Cecilia Dapa, that this issue of Cecilia Dapa was one of the issues that cost the MPP the election. And I used to say that before the election, that if the MPP were to lose the election heavily, the Cecilia Dapa story is responsible for it. Because how do we sit here and hear that a minister has acquired $1 million in her house? There are 88 of them. That's $88 million of Ghanaian taxpayers' money in their homes. During the campaign, President Mahama said, don't worry, we'll go to their homes and pick the money for you. And we all celebrated it. Choboy, yay! Now, 10 months into the government, FBI comes and says, Cecilia Dapa did no wrong. OSP comes and says, Cecilia Dapa did no wrong. And Cecilia Dapa is still walking around. But it has cost at least 1 million, 2 million, 3 million votes of the party that she belonged to. We all have to be careful in the way we address this perception issue. And governments must learn from the experiences of Kufuor's administration in incarcerating people in one way or the other. The prosecution of Mrs. Rawlings, which actually drew out J.J. Rawlings in the election of 2008. That 2008 election was a shoo-in for Akufo-Addo to win. The reason why he fell short of those things are there could be many reasons, but one of the critical reasons was the efforts of Fly Lieutenant Rawlings crisscrossing the country tirelessly, even without the Mills campaign. Now, they had a 3-pronged approach. Mills was one place, John Mahama was one place, and J.J. Rawlings, who was a powerful military leader, went on the ground to campaign against the MPP candidate. Later on, Rawlings told Ghanaians that Akufo-Addo is a gentleman he had always admired in politics. Later on, they became good friends. But for the fact that his wife was being prosecuted in a manner that many people felt that she shouldn't have been prosecuted, Ayuko was the Attorney General at the time, it drew Rawlings onto the street and perhaps...
Yes. So that's what Adom-Otchere. Felix Kwakye na representing this one, so not massa. The only new work can. Munim nearby, they buy MPP for Krumwa and Yasab Ketwa.
To begin with, citing Justice Shamsai's pronouncements and that of Domelevo, do not in any way undermine the fight against corruption that we have waged. To begin with, if the Deputy Attorney General says, the mere fact that you've acquired land at what is perceived to be a ridiculously low price does not in itself constitute a crime or an act of corruption. That is trite knowledge. Moro, it is trite knowledge. The mere act itself on the surface won't constitute a crime. But if it is investigated and found that the actors involved deliberately compromised their position and gave the land to you because of political connection, and that the land was valued at a certain price but was sold to you at a knockdown rate due to political considerations, that is where the crime will be. So that is why it requires investigation. So if tomorrow we woke up and learned that you bought some government property around Metro TV here for 10,000 Ghana cedis, That in itself doesn't mean that you've committed a crime. But if we find that the officer in charge knew that this land was $1 million, and because you are his friend or his crony, he gave it to you at 10,000, then there's an issue to investigate. So that the official who did that will be held liable for the action. That is essentially what the Deputy Attorney General says. And how does this detract from the fight against corruption? Again, I listened to the program on Joy News where Mr. Domelevo spoke. And in fact, the exact quotation has been published on Manjaro Online. So anybody interested can read. What he said was that from the very onset, everybody knew that the oral committee set up by President Mahama, which in any event was set up before President Mahama took office, and therefore could not have had any legal mandate anyway to do any prosecution or even investigation, was set up just to collect information from the people of Ghana or anybody who had it and process same for the use of the Attorney General once he is appointed. In fact, I put out that statement. Again, anybody who goes to my Facebook wall or Twitter page can download this statement and read it. It was very, very clear. In fact, the exact description I used was that it was a preparatory team. And to the extent that they didn't have any legal mandate, on what basis were they going to conduct investigations? So their mandate was very clear. Nobody who is being truthful could have been in doubt what the remit of their work was. It was said that if you, Moro, had evidence that Paul had engaged in any act of corruption, bring it. If you have what you believe to be evidence, add it. It will be sifted through, and then what is deemed to be workable will be then given to the Attorney General once he takes office. That is precisely what happens. So it is entirely possible that people will bring information that you can consider as garbage or rubbish. Yeah. And those people who worked in that committee were in no doubt that that could happen. It is a reason why after they submitted their report, the Attorney General gave it to accredited state agencies to conduct investigations into and find which ones merit further action. There has never been a period where anybody said that the over 2,000 complaints that they receive, all of them could be prosecuted. Nobody can think that way. They whittled it down to about 280 cases. Even then, there's no guarantee that all 280 cases will master scrutiny in court. So, for me, we are splitting hairs over nothing. We are wasting precious time on what is so obvious. But perhaps it is a tactic adopted by those who want to see the fight fail in order to obfuscate the issues and draw us into a discussion of tangential, insignificant matters when the real issues are pending. So Mr. Domelevo has not said anything that invalidates the work of the committee. Indeed, I heard one MP claim that the MPP has been vindicated. How does Mr. Domelevo's statements vindicate you? As we speak, there are several MPP officials who were prominent in the Akufo-Addo government who are standing trial on the basis of the work that Oral did, which has been further investigated to establish clearly the culpability or otherwise of those named in there. So how does that vindicate you? So I think that the MPP are in too much of a hurry to poo-poo what is happening. Of course, you can understand the political motive behind it. They want to douse public interest in this and create a situation where people begin to doubt the efficacy of what is happening. So that can be understood from a political context. But let nobody be in doubt about the seriousness that is being attached to this. You see, Moro, the last time I was here with Paul, I highlighted it. Look, there is no dispute that the Akufo-Addo Bawumia government supervised unprecedented levels of corruption. Sometimes it was palpable. It was clear that there was corruption going on. And you in the media, on a daily basis, bombarded us with exposés of corruption. At a point, we were just swarmed that one could not, you had hardly finished discussing one corruption allegation before another one is tossed in. And so you could even not tell which one to focus on because there were so many. Because of that, the people of Ghana legitimately demanded action from President Akufo-Addo, who was unwilling to take such action. You could see clear wrongdoing that was not punished. Indeed, in many instances, he himself jumped to the defense of the persons who had been accused of corruption. And so it was clear that nothing was going to be done about that unless and until that government was booted out. Now, any responsible party or candidates who wanted to lead this country needed to respond to that public demand. Because Moro, this is a country where people have actually been shot, tied to the stakes and shot because of corruption, and it was supported. We are talking about the demise of Mrs. Rawlings. In the heydays, there were demands for blood for persons who had engaged in acts that pale into insignificance when compared to what has happened under the MPP. So the Ghanaian people have always demanded action about corruption. He spoke about how corruption was a major issue in the 2000 elections. That
2016.
And of course, in every election. Of course, in every election. And so was it in 2020, so was it in 2024. So was it under President Kufuor in 2008. So was it in 2004 when the Malamisa kickback case emerged. You remember that? President Kufuor's Wawa speech, he came under a barrage of criticism for appearing to endorse corruption when he justified the incidence of corruption in his government. So corruption has always been an issue. But have we as a people, has various governments responded to it in a manner that is satisfactory to the people of Ghana? Up until 2024, the people of Ghana thought no. So anybody who wanted to lead this country needed to make a firm commitment to addressing that particular concern. Then came in oral, Operation Recover All Loot. And President Mahama says, look, I have heard the cries of Ghanaians. I, as president, will take steps to ensure that we address this canker of corruption in a manner that is comprehensive, in a manner that makes it a high-risk activity for persons wanting to get into it. So what did he do? It was in a manifesto, captured in there. When he was elected, before he could take over as president formally, he put in place a mechanism to begin work on addressing the issue of corruption under the previous government. So then he set up the oral committee to receive information about acts of corruption and process that information. So it was raw material. Nobody could take that to court to seek conviction unless and until subsequent work had been done to establish firmly whether or not the allegations are true and whether there is basis, there is evidence to support him. That is what happened. When he took over, indeed a ceremony was held where the report of oral was then handed over to the Attorney General. He gave it to the NIB, the police CID, sometimes the National Signals Bureau is involved, sometimes the National Security itself is involved, and the Attorney General's office itself, and then Yoko, to look into these matters. And Moro, they won't tell, I'm sure Paul knows because he has his ears to the ground. Dozens, scores of MPP officials have been invited for questioning. On a daily basis, I get briefings. So they will give you a grade showing who has been called, who has been cautioned, who has been billed. It is not all of them that gain media attention. Perhaps because of the personalities involved. They are not necessarily people who are in the front burner of our politics. So you may not know. But I can tell you, over 80 different people have been interviewed. Some of them have been given bail quietly. Some of them have people standing surety for them. Yes. 80 and more. And it is something that continues to happen.
Wow.
And let me tell you, all the 280 cases that Ora presented are being looked into. All of them, bar none.
Yes. Now, Nyami Kenyan say, when you are communicating in government, communicate clearly. Bawumia ya create $2.3 million because enya no kure ye di matem krumwa. Later on because enya no kure. Free SHS some say I did kura 5.6 million na co school. Me you just because enya no kure ye di matem. Educhum later because ampa enya sa 5.6 na 3.2 na enkwasiafo na ezi umunim nyansa kan na sa nete. Mehu bida. Instead de biam kanyam say me atem di emfa me ho. That's why I even encourage you to share your comment. Posterity always bear people out. February na meka assembly na minim nienti America ukuje to pressure ama Attorney General because some no enye ni nyina na beti obeko bi hunya na hikeke no be information, so they should have hastened slowly. At least Domelevo was part of the committee and the government appointee should learn from it. On AG press conference they make makase I believe it's an accountable thing. Me lawyers na nyomudi obi an kan chem say ne wo ye na ye criminal and answer ya dia enimbrem. Aha. And again, no, and that's summarily a say at so make game ni ade omo lawyers court. And no that so ni sawatacha court to work out of court. Aha, nti e don mo fa process nim. Me de bia me kan answer bro nya de ne say. Obi aye bone kra na emfa na ho tan. O me mentan nipa. Owo obehwe po video no afon wadi matem. Una ampepo Adom-Otchere me no ye wasem enya me masema. Enya nya ne obeka na ebe sesa me madwen. Eno ntre se ne po obeka bia en no krema me. But abronye metra criticizing that. By the way, I first so channel no na nya kwan papa. Ensa meka. That makes you a principled person. Ati here, nyame kan say Attorney General nya so asese nipa kokwa mo kwan so bia nko court no bia nko yi ne ho ano. For me na ye lawyer for ne kan chapter no ye ne nimra kwan so. And it's all because of pressure na the man on oral no. Inti so ye niam bisa just to be able to douse the pressure. No accredited bro to aka say mo tum no boma no nya dwuma no because ko pre no ko ye bibi na ko jigua mo aga na fo yanso na meka say wa nya na dwuma yi. Matias here. So the conclusion of what I'm saying is that sometimes you be a teacher no. Aya e kasa, give us a bit of respect. Give us a bit of respect. We see certain things from afar. Based on experience, based on Juma channel, we see certain things from afar. On the before that time, so buffer stock, oh, I don't know, listen, I kept using the word allegedly, and because you are too fixated on hatred, and then you may be a you quote people out of context. Me we crack cancer brand here no ne yomo ke me nya so so omon kwan de dis adwuma na me de Bank of Ghana diet akro frɛ no hena na eni a wo ko yiska wasi unu amana sense forms de breda hena na eni ada ne nka nokre eto omon kwan de three transfers ke no de yanti o makobɔ mu favorite di ndu bedi matam me ma ya ayi odwanfunu emfama posterity will bear us out makasa be go do ya and I found here. So subscribe and click the bell notification. Me the video you to am obehu no wetin ma share. We are no comment in the comment section. Send the be make am here Ghana so here. Bye bye.